Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityurma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness unto light, lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Om Namah Shri Atirajaya Vivekananda Surai Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swami Netapaharini. Namaste and good morning and welcome everybody. It's another beautiful Sunday morning in the Upper West. And it's Swami Vivekananda's birthday. So it's happy birthday to Swami Vivekananda. Yesterday, by the Indian calendar, it was yesterday, and we had a puja yesterday. And this time, the two dates, the English calendar is always 12th January, of course. It's very close together this time. It's 10th January by the Indian calendar and 12th January by the English calendar. In India, also, of course, 12th January is observed as the National Youth Day. So he will always be remembered as a youth icon because he, as he said, I will not live to see 40. So the Vivekananda we remember and we will always remember forever in human history will be that Vivekananda, the young Vivekananda. He died when he was 39. Today, I'll speak a little bit about Swami Vivekananda, his life and his teachings. The subject that we see is Ramakrishna and Vivekananda. The reason I've said that subject is I am referring to a book written by Swami Buddhananda, a senior monk of our order, long before my time. I never saw him. He was the head of our ashram in New Delhi, and he was here in the United States for some time also. He was a writer, a thinker, written some wonderful books. One of those books is called in Bengali Thakure Naren Narene Thakur, which means, Thakur, we call Sri Ramakrishna Thakur Sri Ramakrishna. So Thakur's Naren of course is Narendranath Datta, who became Swami Vivekananda there. So Thakur's Naren's Thakur, which means Sri Ramakrishna's Vivekananda and Vivekananda's Sri Ramakrishna. And it's a booklet really. It's more of a long essay than a full-length book, but scintillating in its original Bengali. I thought there was no English translation. I thought it was unfortunate, but Bill told me yesterday that there is an English translation which he has read. It's called Ramakrishna's Vivekananda and Vivekananda's Ramakrishna. Oh, okay. So Ramakrishna's Naren and Naren's Ramakrishna. Probably out of print, I guess, because I have not seen it. We have copies of it? Okay, so it's in print also. Good. So it's a very small book, but beautifully written, I thought, and wonderful insights. So what I'm going to say today is largely based on that book, the observations of Swami Buddhanandaji. There, in that book, Swami Buddhananda says that, Sri Ramakrishna and love, that's sort of the theme of the entire book. Swami Vivekananda himself said that Sri Ramakrishna was L-O-V-E, love personified. And that's important to note because when we look at Sri Ramakrishna, what usually comes for the forefront is this extraordinary mystic, forever having ecstasies and trances and the vision of God in multiple ways. Somebody called Sri Ramakrishna the super mystic, extraordinary in the range and depth of his spiritual experiences. That's what comes to us, what strikes us first. Then what strikes us are his extraordinary teachings, his extraordinary life. So these are the things which strike us. But those who were close to him, it's not just Vivekananda, the others, the direct disciples, all of them, those who were close to him, they all noticed this one thing about him, the extraordinary love that he had. It was a love that knew no limits. He loved everybody, but also it was not, the moment we talk about loving everybody, it sounds a little philosophical, a little distant and impersonal, but it's also very personal because everybody felt that he loved me the most. Of course, there's no doubt about whom he loved the most. It was Naren. And he made no bones about it. There's no secret about it. So, Swami Vivekananda points out that the avatar, why did Ramakrishna come? The incarnation. The incarnation comes out of love. We read in the Bhagavad Gita that there are many incarnations of God. The famous verses are there. Whenever religion declines and evil increases, then the Lord embodies forth in the form of an incarnation. For what purpose? We have read those among the most famous verses of the Bhagavad Gita. Paritranaya sadhunam, for the upliftment or the sanctification or the enlightenment of the good. People who are already on the spiritual path, to remove their obstacles and to make sure that they attain God realization. Vinashaya is the dushkritam, for the destruction of the evil. Now, Sri Ramakrishna didn't go about killing demons, but you can put it in another way. For reforming, for uplifting, for purifying those who are given to wicked ways or to evil ways. For that, dharma samsthapanarthaya, for establishment of religion. Sambhavami yogi yogi, I come from age to age. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. The establishment of religion, whenever we chant that, the salutation to Sri Ramakrishna, also by the way composed by Swami Vivekananda, Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarva dharma swarupine, the establisher of religion. Now it doesn't mean that there's no religion. There was religion. Religion is most ancient. But what these great ones do from time to time in human history is to rejuvenate, is to give new life, pump new life into the old religion. So one characteristic of an incarnation is that they demonstrate that what the books say, what the tradition says, it's not just some old obsolete stuff. It is true. God exists. Spiritual life is real. One can attain and one should try to attain God realization. It is possible. They demonstrate beyond any possibility of doubt. So that's one way of establishing religion. But also, they are revolutionaries in their own way. They show new paths. They open up new vistas in spiritual life. So we read about this in the Bhagavad Gita. This is why an incarnation of God comes. But beyond these, even upliftment of the holy, to the reform of the wicked, the establishment of religion, Swami Vivekananda points out, deeper than all of this, at the source of all of these motivations is love. It is the love of the divine for the human. It is the love of God for man. And out of that, the incarnation comes. So Sri Ramakrishna comes out of that. Swami Vivekananda, in the hymn which we sing every day, Khandana Bhava Bandhana, and the evening arati, he calls Sri Ramakrishna Chira Unmada Prema Pathara, a vast ocean of spiritual moods, always in waves of love. It's not a calm ocean. It's an ocean which is turbulent with waves, but the waves are of love, of divine love for all of us. And that is the origin of the avatar. Why the avatar comes, why the avatar accepts a human form to be with all of us. And then when Sri Ramakrishna comes, we look at his life and we see, the first thing we see is this divine love turned towards divinity, this tremendous search for God. That's the first fact of Sri Ramakrishna's life we see, from childhood onwards, but especially when this young man comes to the Kali temple in Dakshineshwar and becomes the priest there. A tremendous passion, a madness overtakes him. This madness is does God exist, actually? Not as a matter of belief. Can God be actually seen? We hear of God revealing for him, we often say God himself, but for Sri Ramakrishna it was always herself. The Divine Mother revealing herself to devotees and saints through the ages. And he would weep in front of the image of Kali in Dakshineshwar, that you showed yourself to Ram Prasad and other great devotees. Will you not reveal yourself to me? Is it just a stone image? Or is there a living spiritual reality here? And he worshipped. It's not just, we often read about how he cried and prayed, but it's not just he just cried and it's not just, the story of Ramakrishna is not just a tearjerker. it's, he did all kinds of spiritual practice, including the most meticulous ritualistic worship, the puja of Kali, daily. All the meditation techniques which he had learned, the all sorts of spiritual practices, whatever he thought could take him to his beloved Divine Mother. But most of all, he wept. And we read about how he would fall weeping to the on the bank of the Ganga at the end of the day, as the sun was setting on the western horizon. He would fall weeping there and saying, "Mother, one more day has passed. Alas, I still have not seen you. You have not revealed yourself to me." People thought this young man has come from a village, Kamarpukur. Maybe he misses his mother. He's crying for his mother. He was, but he was crying for the mother of all of us, for the cosmic mother, divine mother. And we know the story, how his heart's desire, this tremendous passion for God, it was fulfilled. And he had the vision of Kali. But this love did not cease there. It didn't stop. Now he wanted to experience God in the form of Shiva, in the form of the incarnation of Rama, the little child Ramlala. Then in the form of Radha Krishna, there's a separate temple in Dakshineshwar. So in Dakshineshwar, if you go there, the 12 Shiva temples, there is the temple of Kali, there's the temple of Radha Krishna. And in every form, in whichever form he found spirituality, he would be eager to go and learn there. There were the Sikhs who were there right next to the Dakshineshwar temple, and he would have long conversation with the Sikh visitors about Guru Nanak, about God realization from a Sikh perspective. There were the English who were ruling in Calcutta. That was the capital of the British Empire at that time, and he wanted to know how these strange white men from the far, how do they worship God? Can I go to a church and see? Christianity, Islam. So he wanted to experience God in so many of these forms, through meditation, through devotion, through ritualistic worship, through tantric practices. Swami Tapasyananji calls him a glutton for God. It can be a glutton for food, a glutton for God. In whichever way he found, wherever and in whoever he found genuine spirituality, he was attracted there. He would go and want to see and learn and experience God in that way. And he did, in all of these ways. He had a series of extraordinary mystical experiences, but it didn't stop there. And then finally with his Advaitic Guru, Totapuri, who comes and teaches him of the truth of non-dual Vedanta, he meditates, attains Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the non-dual realization, and one might think that it will stop now, this divine madness. In one sense it did, in another sense a new madness took over. Now it turned. That which was flowing Godward now flowed towards the human. Swami Buddhanji remarks there, for our dualistic mind it seems a change of direction. For the enlightened one it is the same thing. For Sri Ramakrishna, he's the one who says, with eyes closed God is there, with eyes open God is not there. What kind of God would that be? So he would rush in eagerness to the highest building in the temple, in the evening, after Arati was done, in the darkness around, as the evening Arati went on, or was over in the temple of Kali, he would go up to the rooftop and shout out loud, "Where are you, my children? I wait for you eagerly. My ears burn with the talk of worldly people. Oh, to whom shall I share these wonderful experiences? Come to me." It was revealed to him that there would be people who would come to him to learn from him. Now, in those days, he didn't put it on social media, so now we are open for business here. So you can come and join and learn for spirituality. No, he just cried out to the universe, and the universe listened. I was just thinking, this wild man going up in the darkness, racing up to the roof of the house, and day after day shouting out into the darkness that, "Where are you all, my children? Come to me." And they began to come. This was, the turning away from the world and going Godwards, year after year, 12 years of a divine madness. of a variety of spiritual practices and a variety of spiritual experiences. This was what later Sri Ramakrishna would say, going up to the roof of the house. His own experiences, going up to the roof of the house. You leave the door behind, the staircase behind, the first floor and the second floor behind, and go to the roof of the house. And then you find that what the roof of the house is made of, when you look back upon what you had left behind, they had made of the same concrete and bricks, and so the same thing. So here is Sri Ramakrishna going up, the experience of the Divine Mother, the experience of Shiva and Rama and Krishna and Allah and God in various spiritual traditions and the non-dual Brahman. And then looking back upon the world and human beings and this world of experience and finding the same divinity shining radiantly all around, especially in the human form. This is where this man who fell in love with God and now falls in love with God in the form of the human, not with the human. Somebody scolded him later on. Why do you keep talking so much about Naren and the young boys? Think about God. You're a God man. And Naren himself scolded Sri Ramakrishna. You should think of God, not of me. And Sri Ramakrishna says, I see Narayana in you, you rascal. If the day I stop seeing God in you, I will not be able to look at your face also. That's why So, this is Sri Ramakrishna going up to the roof of the house, then turning around and discovering the rest of the house which he has left behind is the same reality. It is the story of the person who discovered a festival of mirth and goes back to the village to call the villagers and come and see what a great joy there is. The story, the three friends would go and they see a big wall and they don't know what's on the other side of the wall, and one of them climbs up with great difficulty and starts dancing with joy on the top of the wall to the bewilderment of his two friends. And then he jumps over on the other side, says, what great joy, and he jumps over. And the second man climbs, what did he find? And he also starts jumping on the top of the wall there, and he also jumps over on the other side. The third person is also bewildered, what's going on? And he climbs up with great difficulty. Then he sees on the other side, there's a great festival going on in Bengali, Hindi, Mela, a festival going on. And he's also about to join his friends who are in great joy enjoying the festival. Then he thinks, what will happen to the poor people in my village who live such joyless lives of struggle? Who will tell them about this great thing which is there? If I too go on to the other side, I'll never come back then. So he turns around and goes back to the village to bring people. So Sri Ramakrishna, like that, he turns around and comes back to us. And he looks for his special devotees, those who would carry this message. As Buddhanji points out, yes, it's spirituality. Yes, it's yoga and bhakti and jnana and all of that. It's the harmony of religions, all of that. But basically foundationally, it is love. It's a divine love. To carry this divine love and scatter it across the world. Once, Ma Sharada, I'm jumping far ahead in the story. Ma Sharada, long after Sri Ramakrishna's mortal body passed away, in Belur Math, the main monastery, just before it was established, she saw in the Ganga, she saw once, it's a vision, Sri Ramakrishna quickly running towards the Ganga and entering into the Ganga and dissolving into the Ganga, becoming the Ganga as it were. And then Swami Vivekananda coming and taking that water and scattering it worldwide, to all the people across the world. So that's what happened. Sri Ramakrishna now turns the same love. This is the brilliant insight of Swami Buddhanandaji, that the same love which drove him Godward, and in so many ways, the same love is now turned back towards us. And they started coming. That's the amazing thing. These young men who later became the direct disciples and other householder disciples, they all started coming and gathering around him. The author of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, because of whom we have all these amazing teachings, extraordinary teachings, collected in that book, Kathamrita, the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. So they all started coming. And among them came Narendranath. Narendranath Datta, the son of eminent lawyer in Calcutta, Vishwanath Datta's son. So he comes. He was already in search of God. And somebody told him about Sri Ramakrishna. His English teacher told him about that when you they're reading about a trance, a spiritual trance. He says, I've seen only one person who actually experiences a genuine spiritual trance, and that's Ramakrishna Paramahamsa of Dakshineshwar. Which means there were English men and women visiting Sri Ramakrishna also, long before these youngsters came. So Narendranath turns up, Naren turns up and asks Sri Ramakrishna, have you seen God? Direct question, empirical question for an empirical age. And the answer was stunning. He says, I have. Yes, I have. And you can too. So Sri Ramakrishna, when he saw Naren, he recognized Naren. He said, he had seen this boy earlier in a vision. And in the vision, he would tell his close disciples, see, that one day I saw, my mind soared high and I saw a region of light. And 7 great sages merged in that radiance in deep meditation. And from that region of light, a mass of light condensed into a divine child who came to one of those sages and brought him, made him arise from samadhi and said, I am going to the world. Look, yonder world, it drowns in darkness and misery. I am going there. Will you not come with me? And the sage acknowledged, non-verbally, in the eyes, it's yes, that I will come. And then that, like a ray of light, that divine child descended towards this world of manifested material reality. Now, he says, Sri Ramakrishna says, Naren is that sage. So implied thereby, who was the divine child then? It was Ramakrishna himself. So when he sees Narendranath, he calls him aside and says, how long I have been waiting for you? Where were you all these years? And Narendranath thought, he's crazy. He says, you are the sage, Nara Rishi. You have come, Lord, you have come down here for the welfare of the world. And Narendranath Datta thought, no, this guy is crazy. I am the son of Vishwanath Datta. What's he talking about? But he knew. Sri Ramakrishna was right, not Narendranath. And in the very first meeting itself, Sri Ramakrishna wanted to give everything. Throughout his life, as long as he was in contact with Narendranath, he wanted to give everything. He tried his best. In the first meeting itself, he touches Narendranath Datta. He says, he had this power of transmitting spirituality directly. Later on, Vivekananda would say here in America, he says, spirituality can actually be given. I have seen it. He's speaking about his own experience. It can be given as like you give a flower to somebody. I remember, it's a very touching, a strange and touching story, and a very small incident. We had a Swami in France, in Gretz, Bita Mohanandaji, who passed away a few years ago. Now I heard this story in France about him. He was a man of few words, a very loving soul. Now, a person had come to him, a French gentleman had come to him with a great deal of sorrow in their heart. And they spoke about their sorrow, their struggles in life. And the Swami listened quietly, as he would usually, without any words. And intently looking at him. And at the end of it all, he never said a single thing. He took a flower and gave it to that gentleman. And that somehow, and there's no explanation to him, that spiritualized the life of that gentleman. It transformed him, and he never ever forgot it all his life. Although the Swami didn't say a single word to him. So it can be given. And Sri Ramakrishna tried to transmit that to Naren. The Naren felt the world is spinning around him and disappearing, and he reacted in fear. He said, what are you doing? Stop. I have parents at home. What are you doing to me? Sri Ramakrishna laughed and he said, all right, let it be. It will happen in its own time. It's interesting. Naren, the brave, rationalist young man who is in search of God, when he actually comes face to face with God, he says, stop, I don't want this. Very much like Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. In the 11th chapter of the Gita, he says, whatever you have said, O Lord, in these 10 chapters which preceded, I believe it all. But I want to see for myself. I want to experience it for myself. Are you truly an incarnation of God? Let me see it for myself. Krishna says, all right. Be careful what you ask for. And then, of course, that extraordinary vision, the 11th chapter. Oppenheimer quoted some verses from it when he saw the explosion of the first atom bomb, the light of 1,000 suns rising in the sky. Of course, Arjuna was terrified. And he said, "Stop. What are you doing? I don't want to see this." Then Sri Ramakrishna started molding, the master craftsman. He started molding Naren. Because just as Naren needed Sri Ramakrishna also needed Naren. Swami Buddhananda says that yes, the divine love had incarnated in this world, but it needed a vehicle to spread across. It needed a drum to be beaten, a megaphone as it were, a messenger to the world. And that is what Sri Ramakrishna recognized in Naren, and he started molding him. And from the very beginning, there was no doubt whom Sri Ramakrishna loved the most. This incarnation of love, he clearly loved Narendranath the most. But Buddhananji points out something very, very fascinating. He says, the unequal love he had for Narendranath is because of the equal love he had for all of us. Because he found in Narendranath that third friend who would not jump over the wall for their own ecstasy and liberation, who would come back for suffering humanity. In Narendranath, he found that one who would not only eat the mango, and he gives the example of wiping one's face after eating the mango so that nobody knows you have eaten the mango, but he would bring others, he would share the mango with everybody else. He found that one. And so he would be the vehicle of spreading this divine love across the world. So he started molding Naren. There were two things primarily which he had to do, both of which Naren resisted stoutly. One was, they seem to be polar opposites. One was the non-dual realization that all is Brahman, I am Brahman. And Narendranath actually opposed it at first. He was a staunch follower of the reform school of the Brahma Samaj of Keshab Chandra Sen, which was kind of a reform Hinduism at that time. No image worship, but no non-dual Vedanta in the time of Advaita Vedanta also. A worship of a formless God, and that's it. And a morality, a kind of sanitized kind of Hinduism for the Bhadralok, the middle class Bengalis in Calcutta. And Vivekananda followed that. He resisted the idea that it's all Brahman. Sri Ramakrishna would ask him to read from the Ashtavakra, the text of a non-dual Vedanta, a radical text. And Narendranath would say that, what nonsense is this? The pot is God, the cot is God, the door is also God. I am God, you are God, whether rishis, the masters, whether they're crazy. And Sri Ramakrishna says, well, why are you saying they are crazy? Don't say that. And one day he actually touches Narendranath Datta. Again, the transmission. This time the transmission takes hold. In tradition, this is called Shambhavi Diksha. There's one kind of Diksha initiation where the Guru gives you a mantra and you practice that mantra, the Ishta Devata. There's another in which direct transmission. It could be by a look or a touch, and the person actually experiences that immediately. And his highest kind of experience, Narendranath Datta was ready by that time. So Naren experienced the divinity everywhere, inside, outside, one Brahman everywhere. And a little later, as his mind came down, 3 days, he was in that state. Then he began to see that one Brahman is real, and the world appears to him as like a dream, There is a story of how he goes to the park in front of his house. That park is still there. And the iron railings are still there. He bumped his head against them to see if they were substantial. The coach, drawn by horses, rushing towards him, he didn't feel like getting out of its way because it all seemed to be the same reality. He did get out of the way, luckily. That's why we have him here. So after that, he would never doubt. So that part was accomplished, that non-dual realization, one existence, consciousness, bliss, Satchidananda, and you are that. And that is what Vivekananda, he says, Gajjad Vedanta Singhe, like a lion roar of Vedanta, he would proclaim that you are Brahman, that you are one with God in this country and in India also later on. The other thing that Narendranath resisted was Kali, the Divine Mother. He would sort of disparagingly refer to her as, oh, she is Thakur's mother, Thakurer Ma, not mine. In the sense that it's image worship, it's all that ritualism. And why all that, He was a proud rationalist. And Sri Ramakrishna wanted him to accept Kali. A bit like you can see, sort of a parallel with Sri Ramakrishna's own non-dual guru, Totapuri. Totapuri also did not like. Totapuri, one non-dual Brahman alone is real. All this is unnecessary. This, Kali and the worship of God as the mother, and what's the necessity of all of this? Well, the way Totapuri learned, in a very similar way Narendranath learned also. Totapuri, he was sick at one point, and he wanted to give up the body. He wanted to drown the body in the Ganga. And he actually walked across the Ganga from Dakshineshwar to the other side of the Ganga without drowning at late night, one night. And he realized that I can't even die without the permission of the Divine Mother. Even the body cannot go. It's kind of a miracle, but then later on they found there was a sandbank beneath the river at that time. So in low tide, the river increases and decreases in tide because it's close to the Bay of Bengal. In low tide, you can actually walk across without drowning. But then it's also a miracle, how come that his feet fell exactly on the sandbank, which is a narrow sandbank. Anyhow, that's how Totapuri accepted that everything here in this world is a play of the Divine Mother, including his own Vedanta, his Samadhi, his spirituality. It's because the Mother had endowed him with all that strength and purity and the occasion, the desire for God realization, the opportunities for sadhana. And that's why he never really had to struggle like other people, poor people in the world have to struggle for spirituality. It came very easily to Totapuri. So he was all for self-effort, and he didn't realize even that self-effort, even what he was doing, is entirely a blessings of the Mother. And he realized then. And Narendranath Datta, so Swami Buddhanji puts it this way: Totapuri couldn't drown himself in the river. And he realized that the Divine Mother is real. It's all the play of the Divine Mother. And Narendranath Datta nearly drowned in the ocean of samsara, and he realized the Divine Mother is real. His father died, and his families, they were rich and successful. From that, they fell to poverty. And he was the eldest son of the house. His brothers and sisters were little, and his poor widowed mother, how will they make ends meet? There were days when they had no food on the table. And Narendranath, the proud young man, he would say that, I have an invitation to a friend's place for food, so that his younger brothers and sisters could eat. And he found no way of making ends meet, no way of getting a job. So finally, helplessly, again the play of the Divine Mother. So one can't drown in the river, and he realized the Divine Mother is real. The other one is drowning in the ocean of samsara, and he realizes the Divine Mother is real. So he comes to Sri Ramakrishna and says, can you ask your mother, so that, at least my, all these troubles come to an end, these financial problems, these struggles in life. And Sri Ramakrishna said, I don't ask these things, so you should go and ask. He said, no, she listens to you. You should, Vivekananda says to Thakur, you ask her. He said, no, you go and ask. She will listen to you. Go and ask for money. It's a propitious time. So Narendranath Datta goes there, but there he has a experience of the living form of the Divine Mother in the Dakshineshwar Kali temple. And he's so overwhelmed, he cannot ask for money or success in the world. Sri Ramakrishna used to say that to go in the presence of God and ask for wealth and achievement and success in the world is like being ushered into the presence of an emperor and asking for a pumpkin. When you have come to the presence of the emperor, ask for something only the emperor can give. I remember, so in our main monastery in Belur, so on special days, birthdays of like Swami Vivekananda's birthday, so all the monks would bow down and touch the feet of the seniors. At that time, I was teaching the novice monks there in the training center in Belur Math. So that day was some special day. And the young novices, they would go around and bowing down to the acharyas, the masters. So one of them comes, and now the story is this. The most hated class of the day was the afternoon class, right after lunch. So you feel tired and sleepy, and it's hot and muggy. And the greatest delight is if the afternoon class is cancelled. So this is the background. Now, two of these young novices came and bowed down to me, and I jokingly said, ask for a boon, whatever is in your heart. And one of these young novices, he took me seriously. He said, oh, give me enlightenment and devotion, Gyan, bhakti, vairaga, dispassion for the world. The other one was more worldly wise. He said, hey, ask him for what he can give you. And then he got the hint. He said, oh, can we cancel the fifth period? And I wanted him to ask that because I also wanted to take a nap. So I said, yes, your wish is granted. Tata, in Sanskrit, tathastu, let it be so. So Narendranath goes to ask for a pumpkin. But he cannot. Faced with the empress of the universe, he cannot. He asks for devotion and knowledge and dispassion for the world. He comes back to Sri Ramakrishna, reeling in ecstasy, in overwhelmed. Sri Ramakrishna says, what happened? And he narrated everything. Well, that's all wonderful. Did you ask for money? He said, no, I forgot. Oh, how foolish. Go back. There's still time. So Narendranath goes back a second time. The same thing happens. He comes back again. He says, I couldn't ask for money. I asked for devotion and enlightenment. So, oh, how foolish. Go back again a third time. Third time he couldn't ask for money to the Divine Mother. And Sri Ramakrishna was secretly very happy, for he was not only molding, testing Narendranath, that what does this person want? Krishna says, 4 kinds of devotees I have. Those who are in trouble, distress, like Narendranath. Those who are not in trouble, but they want things of the world, more money, more success, more power, or win an election or something like that. So they want things of the world. Or those who want God realization, enlightenment. They don't want things of the world. They are not in distress. They want only God. And of course, finally, the 4th kind of devotee is the enlightened one. So 4 kinds of devotees I have. Artharthi, Artha, Jigyasu, Jnanicha. And Sri Ramakrishna wanted to see, is this young man genuinely wants God under pressure. This very responsible, proud young man who takes it that his first job is to take care of his poor widowed mother and his little brothers and sisters. Under that kind of pressure and assured that his prayers will be answered, what will he ask for? Will he ask for God or the world? And every time, 3 times, he tested and he came out with flying colors. Sri Ramakrishna was very happy. Narendranath, of course, understood that underneath this extremely simple, childlike exterior was a person who was not at all very simple. Whereas some tremendous power lurked behind that simple exterior. He said, I see that it is all your play, Narendranath says to Thakur. Thakur said, all right, your mother and your brothers and sisters will not lack for plain food and clothing. He didn't say they'll become millionaires or billionaires. Just they'll get by. That much I will bless you with. So he accepts Kali. And that night, he asks Sri Ramakrishna, and when he comes back to Sri Ramakrishna's room the 3rd time, he asks Sri Ramakrishna, teach me a song of Kali. And Sri Ramakrishna teaches him that song, and they sing together, and teaches him, Ma Twang Hitara, Tumi Trigunadhara Paratpara. So it's a song to the Divine Mother, to Kali. And Buddhananji has such a beautiful description that the young man, Naren, sits in Sri Ramakrishna's room in the dead of the night, and throughout the night he sings that song again and again and again. And he describes how the darkness all around, the silence all around, carrying that song into the sky, the wind carrying it across the river, the Ganga. And how do we know all this? That this happened and he sang the song all night long? Because next morning, when Vivekananda was tired and he was sleeping in a corner of the room, the visitors started coming, and Sri Ramakrishna was delighted that, see, this boy, Naren Kali Meneche, Naren has accepted Kali. Isn't it wonderful? Isn't it wonderful? The people were, what is this accepting Kali? We are not very sure. And wonderful, I guess, if you say so, I suppose it's wonderful. People, it was so childlike, people humored him, said, yeah, I suppose it's wonderful. Just by the way, it's so poignant. This song, Ma Twang Hi Tara, he would sing it again on his last day, Vivekananda, on when he died, 4th July 1902. That day he meditated a long time. He closed the doors of the temple and he meditated a long time. And then people from outside heard him singing that for a long time, that song which Ramakrishna had taught him so many years ago. Now, why is it important? See, Vivekananda also attained Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And so Sri Ramakrishna said there's two things he had to do. One, non-dual realization, the highest, and also accepting Kali. So Sri Ramakrishna asks him, now what do you want? This was your goal, to attain enlightenment, God realization. He says, I just want to stay there. I just want to stay there. Once in a while, maybe I'll come down for a snack. He actually said that. Come down for a snack and then I'll go back and stay there. Now, any guru would be happy. This is the acme of meditation, jnana and Vedanta and yoga. Yogic samadhi and the highest Vedantic realization that I am Brahman and the ability to center your mind there. First of all, we find it difficult to understand or grasp this. Even if we understand it, it does not feel real to us. Even if it feels real momentarily, we cannot stay there. And Vivekananda is described by his brother disciple, Ramakrishna and the Shashi Maharaj, as anitya drishyeshu vivichya nityam, the one who is able to discern the eternal reality in the middle of this transient and ephemeral world. In our experiences of this world, the reality is right here. We are missing it. Vivekananda is the one who is able to discern. This discernment is called Viveka, from which his name has come. But not only is he able to discern this, anitya drishyeshu vivichya nityam, in this world of transient drishya experiences, one who can discern the eternal, tasmin samadhatta ihasma lilaya, who is able to become absorbed in that eternal. And not with difficulty, like play, lilaya. Why so? Why can he do that and why can't we do it? Viveka vairagya vishuddha chittam, because the mind has been extraordinarily purified by viveka, discernment, vairagya, utter dispassion for the world. That's why. One sadhu said, if you have dispassion for the world, sensual pleasures, wealth and achievement, and name and fame, these are the three powerful anchors which anchor us down in this world. Sri Ramakrishna gave the example of the mongoose who tried to leap through a hole, but the naughty children of the village had tied a brick to its bushy tail, so whenever it tried to leap through the wall, it would fall back. We are like that. The brick which is tied to us is this desire for sensual enjoyment, this desire for wealth and prosperity, individual in this world, and name and fame and achievement, all which seem to be fine, but spiritual life, that's the brick. The mind which has been purified of all this, that mind can not only discern the reality, but also remain centered there at its will. And Ramakrishnaji writes about Vivekananda, Yosau Viveki Tamaham Namami. That Viveki, Vivekananda, I salute that one. So Vivekananda said he could remain like that. Sri Ramakrishna should have been happy. This is the culmination. Sri Ramakrishna scolds him. He said, fie on you. I thought you will be like a great banyan tree under whose shade thousands and thousands for long, centuries to come, they will find shelter under you. And here you are seeking only your liberation, your own peace. For that purpose, acceptance of Kali was necessary. For going to the roof of the house, fine, yoga and Vedanta takes him there. But turning back from the roof of the house, back to humanity, and to see divinity in all beings. It's not God and humanity. It's God in the transcendent and God in the immanent. God in all of these forms. So for that, accepting Kali was necessary. And for the work, Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva, Sri Ramakrishna's teachings, to serve all sentient beings, knowing them to be Shiva. All of that is not possible if you turn your attention away from all sentient beings into the transcendent. Remember, that was Vivekananda's own nature. That was the sage who remained absorbed in that radiance, yes, in Samadhi, from where Ramakrishna had pulled him down. That's why Sri Ramakrishna had always told the close disciples, never relate this story of the sages immersed in samadhi and how the divine child comes and pulls him down to this world. Never tell this story to him. Why not? He says, if he knows who he is, he will not stay. And so the Divine Mother, has pulled a veil over his eyes, which is something that he knew, that there is something hidden from me. And you see in Vivekananda's, the 10 years of his life, he struggled here in the West and in India. He was always struggling to go back there. Sri Ramakrishna said, you have seen it now. Now it will be locked. The key will remain with me. You have to do the Divine Mother's work, Kali's work. And then in the end, I will give you the key again. And Vivekananda always, Naren being Naren, he said, I won't do that work. I won't. And Sri Ramakrishna says, your very bones will do it. So that accepting Kali, that's why Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva, to serve all sentient beings, knowing them to be Shiva. Another little mantra that Sri Ramakrishna gave. How potent these little sayings are. Khali pete dharma haina. You cannot have spirituality on an empty stomach. Under deprivation, in poverty, in sickness, in moral depravity, one cannot be spiritual. There are huge obstacles to spirituality. So the country where Vivekananda was, it was under the dominion of a colonial power. People were starving, illiterate, superstitious, divided on lines of caste. The condition of women was terrible. Under those conditions, people were uneducated, illiterate also. Spirituality itself will suffer. Yes, there will always be yogis and enlightened beings who will come up without any need of material support. They will reach God realization. But those will always be very few in number. But for the masses, what about them? Why ignore millions and millions of people? So, Vivekananda's special emphasis on service to humanity, emphasis on healing the sick, on educating the ignorant, on feeding the hungry, all of that comes from these mantras given by Sri Ramakrishna. And behind all of that, it needs to accept Kali, the manifestation of the divine, not just the transcendent, but also with eyes open, not just God with eyes closed, but God with eyes open. So all of what Sri Ramakrishna wanted to be done in this world, it required Naren to accept Kali. So these were the two great projects Sri Ramakrishna had for Naren, that the non-dual realization, I am Brahman, which he would teach across the world, and accepting Kali. Swami Buddhananda writes that Sri Ramakrishna was so sick with cancer, he would have died earlier. He says, I'm quite sure he hung on until these two were accomplished with Naren. And when it's interesting, when Naren accepts Kali and then attains Nirvikalpa Samadhi, within days Sri Ramakrishna was gone after that. He calls Naren to him and he transmits actual transmission of that power. And he is weeping. After that transmission, Sri Ramakrishna is weeping. He says, today I have given everything to you. I have become a fakir. Fakir means given everything. Given everything means, Buddhananji interprets there, that he has now he has poured himself into Naren. There is now Sri Ramakrishna is in Naren. So Naren, Vivekananda is the vessel which will transmit this. And after that, he was gone. Sri Ramakrishna was gone. From the physical realm. And then starts this Ramakrishna in Naren, Vivekananda. And what he accomplished over the next 10 years, just 10 years of his work, from 1893 to 1902, when he was gone. In 10 years, incredible. First he comes to the West. And there also Buddhanji so poetically says that when Vivekananda is in the last point of India, in Kanyakumari, on that rock, meditating upon how he can help this land, its enormous problems, this young man who has no power, no wealth, no organization, nothing. He's just alone. A few youngsters like him, those are there. And they are also not particularly interested in any kind of social work or national work. They are spiritual seekers. How will he help this land? And then he has this vision of Sri Ramakrishna on the waves, he says, walking across and pointing to the west. He says, come there. And Buddhanji writes there, he says, this is also the play of that divine lover. If the love of the divine were confined, after all of this talk, if it was confined to just one land and one people, it would still not be as great as it is. Vivekananda, he comes to the West because he thought it would help his cause in India, and it did. But that was not really the purpose. Very soon Vivekananda realized his goal here was just that, to transmit this vast spiritual power across this land. So this divinity which descended on earth is not for just one race of people or one country in one locality for one time. It is for all the peoples of the world. And America was chosen at that time because here the voice which is given here would be spread across this country and across the world. In 10 years, Vivekananda did these two great things. One, he built this bridge between the East and the West. Phil Goldberg, in his book American Veda, very nicely has delineated the entire history, which starts with Vivekananda, actually with the transcendentalists, Emerson and others, but Vivekananda really, and he mentions this, the founding of the Vedanta Society here in 1894, as this focal point of transmission of India's accumulated spiritual wisdom through Vivekananda. He was the pioneer. He was a bridge builder. Bridge builder, that reminds me. Not related, but it's a beautiful thing. I learned it a few months ago. I was in the Vatican in Rome, and this Christian priest, he was showing me around ancient Rome. It's wonderful to actually walk in that place, so rich with 2,000 plus years of history, and with somebody who knows the little details, And so he was showing me around, and there are many bridges there. And he says, Swami, one of the ancient title for the Pope, I got to meet the Pope. So he said, you met the Pope. The ancient title for the Pope is Pontifex Maximus? Yes, we know that. But do you know what it means? It means the greatest bridge builder. Pontifex was the bridge builder. The greatest spiritual masters are the bridge builders between the divine and the human. He built this bridge. Nivedita writes, when Vivekananda stood up to speak on 11th September, there was also September 11th September 1893 in Chicago. Before him was the New West. Remember, it was the Columbian Exposition? With its power, its dynamism, its energy, its scientific discoveries. Edison was there, Tesla was there, and so many others. Hiram Maxim of the machine gun fame was there also. So there's so many others there. So there was the New West in front of him. And behind him, she writes, behind him lay 5,000 years of patient development of spirituality. And at that moment, the sheer drama of her writing, at that moment when that young monk stood up to speak, he says the East and the West met. At that moment, the past and the future met. Vivekananda was not just past spiritual treasures of India, not even the 19th century India, for the future, for centuries to come. And Sri Ramakrishna knew this. So the transmission of the spiritual wealth. And after Vivekananda, so many spiritual masters have come from India. Not just our Vedanta Society, Ramakrishna order monks, but so many others, Paramahamsa, Yogananda, many others, they have come. And it continues till today. So this transmission from the East to the West and through America across the world, it becomes the common spiritual heritage of humanity, of everybody. Again, behind it all is this extraordinary love of that strange man of whom Max Wheeler calls, Romarola calls, the poor little man of Dakshineshwar. So, across the world, how Vivekananda labored. So, Buddhanji writes there, he says, it is by no accident that Vivekananda did not find the solution of India's problems in India. That it lay in America, in the West, that was a ruse of this master, of this extraordinary master, who seemed the simplest of all people, was not at all simple, to get Vivekananda to come to the West. Yes, India and her problems would be tackled, but also a much greater purpose would be accomplished. When Vivekananda, after the World Parliament, others went back, Vivekananda stayed on for more than 3 years here. and crisscrossed the land. Buddhananda points out, at its height of his powers, the best part of his energies and powers and teachings he poured into this land, here, and energized a great spiritual movement which continues till today. As Vivekananda says, I am a voice without form. Nobody recognizes the source. Very few people recognize the source. It's not just a source, the text, it's surcharged with spiritual power by the power of Ramakrishna, by the power of the incarnation. That's why it makes it a living spirituality. That's why so many people, Buddhanji says, a great light came into this world and it shines through Vivekananda. Now it is scattered across the world. It shines in the hearts of millions, and millions more in the centuries also will get peace and enlightenment through this great transmission. Then Vivekananda goes back. The second part of his accomplishment goes back to India and arouses he calls India the sleeping motherland, the sleeping giant. He says, I went crisscrossed the land of India on foot, he did. And he says, it is not dead. He wanted to see, is this a dead civilization dying? And he says, no, it's just sleeping. The great motherland will rise again. The India of the future, he says, I see it coming. And it will rise to glories far exceeding all its past glory. So he teaches from Colombo to, from Almora, up to Lahore also in those days. So he traveled across India teaching and rousing his countrymen to a sense of their own greatness and destiny. Historian says Vivekananda was the unconscious father of Indian nationalism. Before Vivekananda, the great Indian leaders, social and political leaders, would talk of themselves as Bengalis or Madrasis or Punjabis. In one generation after Vivekananda, they were all speaking of themselves as Indians. So, this is the second great thing that he accomplished. Buddhananda has a wonderful analysis there. He says, Sri Ramakrishna disappeared into Vivekananda. But, he writes there, he is not as simple, complete self-giving of himself into Vivekananda. But then, he emerges from Vivekananda. We are seeing here the Vivekananda of Ramakrishna. Now next what happens is the Ramakrishna of Vivekananda. He emerges forth now. How? First, as the vast. The Ramakrishna movement centered in Belur Math. What a beautiful description. He says, it's the same Vivekananda who in the Advaita ashram in Mayavati, he says, what? The worship of Ramakrishna? No, stop it. That started the worship of Ramakrishna in Mayavati in the Himalayas. And Swami Vivekananda said, this will be only for Advaita, for non-duality. No forms, no rituals, no pictures, no images, nothing there except non-dual Vedanta. And when he went there in 1900, at the turn of the century at that time, he saw the monks had already set up a picture of Sri Ramakrishna and they were worshipping. Swami Vivekananda said, what, the old man has entered here too? And he disapproved of it strongly, and later the picture was removed. Now, only non-dual Brahman. Of course, the Holy Mother reconciled the two later on. A monk wrote to her, complaint, that we are worshipping Sri Ramakrishna, and Naren came and said that we shouldn't. And he expected support from her. Of course, she spent her whole life worshipping Sri Ramakrishna. So why shouldn't she support it? She, to their surprise, that letter is still preserved in Mayavati. You can see it printed out there. She wrote back that what Naren has done is right. Your guru was Brahman. And I can say, your guru was Advaita, non-dual. He was non-duality itself. And I can say with surety that you are all non-dualists. You are Advaita-vadi. And therefore, what Naren has done is right. So, she is not saying that the Ramakrishna is not being worshipped. She is expanding. Ramakrishna becomes much vaster. Not just this person with a beard sitting there. No, it's non-dual Brahman. That alone appears as Saguna Brahman, the god of religion. And that alone incarnates as various incarnations. So, and it is the same Vivekananda, this is extraordinary thing, who said so strictly that remove, the old man has entered here, remove the picture of the old man. He comes back, he's the same one. On his shoulder is the casket with the ashes of Sri Ramakrishna on the day the Belur Math monastery was established. There's a story behind it. Vivekananda says that Thakur, he says, you had told me, you had promised me that wherever you carry me, that wherever Naren carries me on his shoulders and keeps me, I shall go there, and wherever Naren keeps me, I shall stay there. So here I carry you now, and I bring you. And when he established laid the foundation of the monastery, the worship, and so he put down that casket with the urn with the ashes of Sri Ramakrishna, and he carried it himself on his shoulders in a procession. And he says, you had promised me all those years ago that you will come where I take you, and you will stay where I keep you. So, my Lord, I keep you here. Stay thou here for centuries to come, for the welfare of many across the centuries, across the world. Let this place be a place of light and spirituality. This is my prayer to you. So he puts, and that casket is now, of course, buried deep in the foundation of the altar in Belur Math under the image of Sri Ramakrishna. So, same Vivekananda who told, he's the same Vivekananda who scolds Ramakrishna, who has dedicated all his life to the worship of Sri Ramakrishna, ritual, temple, worship. And Vivekananda says, the one thing that scares me is Sashi, Ramakrishna, his bell, ghanta, his bell. He's afraid of the overwhelming, Hindus like rituals overwhelmingly. And he's afraid that all of this will, like weeds overgrowing the garden, this will cover over the good work that he has done. So he scolds Ramakrishna. He said, throw away this bell into the river. And then once he scolds Ramakrishna, you have started all this worship, who's going to pay? Where is the money for the food offerings and the flowers and all of that? And Shashi Maharaj, Swami Ramakrishna, such an obedient brother, disciple of Vivekananda, he stands up and he says, the one whose worship I am doing, that one will provide for everything for the worship. You don't have to bother. I'm not asking you for money. And Vivekananda approved. He is the one, the same Vivekananda, who would criticize the puja, is the one who would sing and dance with tears rolling down his eyes on the birthday of Sri Ramakrishna. So, this is how the manifestation of Ramakrishna, Vivekananda's Ramakrishna, in this vast form. Yes, the monks of the Ramakrishna order. Yes, the Matajis, the nuns of the Sharada Math. Vivekananda insisted, and this is again coming from Ramakrishna. First, mother and her daughters, and then father and his sons. And he had so many times said, we must have a monastery, a convent for the nuns first. That took a long time, but it happened in 1953, in the birth anniversary of Ma Sharada. Yes, that's the core. But surrounding this, there's so many devotees with Sri Ramakrishna or Ma Sharada as the Ishta Devata shining in their hearts. And there are many, other than our own monasteries and ashrams, there are many organizations which follow the ideals of Vivekananda or Sri Ramakrishna, Ma Sharada. Right here in New Jersey, you have the Vivekananda Vidyapith. So like that, this is the new expression of Ramakrishna through Vivekananda. This is Vivekananda's Ramakrishna. Till now we are seeing Ramakrishna's Vivekananda. This is Vivekananda. This is Naren's Thakur. The tremendous amount of where suffering is there, through hunger, through sickness, through ignorance, to bring education, to bring food and employment and medicine to those who are sick and suffering. And Sri Ramakrishna's few words, Khali pete dharma hai na. You can't have spirituality on an empty stomach. All of this is spiritual. It's not social work. It's spiritual. It's as much as Vivekananda says to Swami Turiyananda, the great non-dualist. One day they were walking and he says, Hari Bhai, brother Hari, in this day and age, I have set out a new path. As in ancient times and today, people were attained to God realization through Vedanta and meditation and devotion. In ages to come, young men and women, he specifically mentions women, young men and women will walk on the path of God and attain to God realization through service of Shiva in the Jiva form, of God in the human form. This love of God for man. Sri Ramakrishna would often pray to the Divine Mother, Oh Mother, don't keep me immersed in Samadhi, in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. I want to enjoy with these human beings, with mortals. And enjoy the presence of the divine in human. He said, Narolila, he would call it the mortal play of the immortal. I want to enjoy that. So this was a manifestation of Sri Ramakrishna in these forms. Even more specific, Girish Ghosh, the great dramatist, another amazing character in the play of Sri Ramakrishna. He asks Narendranath, he knew the caliber of Narendranath. He asked Narendranath, although Narendranath was much younger than Girish Ghosh, he asked Narendranath, you write a book about Sri Ramakrishna, life of Sri Ramakrishna. And Narendranath says, the only thing that's ever scared him, he said that, no GC, he would call him GC, no GC. If you ask me, I can dry up the oceans, I can smash the mountains into hills into powder, but don't ask me to write a life of Sri Ramakrishna. He says in Bengali, Shib Gurte ki Banor Gorbo, when I setting out to make an image of Shiva, but ends up looking like a monkey. So I cannot do that. It's impossible for me. Yet he is the one who really, really understood. As far as it is possible to understand Sri Ramakrishna, Vivekananda understood. Who else understood Ramakrishna like him? He did not write a book, but he did something else. He composed Khandana Bhava Vandhana, the hymn which we sing in all our centers across the world in every evening. Such an amazing hymn. His entire understanding of Sri Ramakrishna is poured forth in that poetry, song and poetry. And it's all about Sri Ramakrishna, and never once Sri Ramakrishna is mentioned there. It's so impersonal and personal at the same time. Luckily, there's a beautiful translation into English by Christopher Isherwood. I'll read out a few lines. In at least in one center I know, in Hollywood, in the Vedanta Society there. So after the singing of the Khandana Bhava Vandhana, they read out these lines, the English translation. So Khandana Bhava Bandhana, composed by Swami Vivekananda. Here is the English translation. Breaker of this world's chain, we adore thee, whom all men love. Spotless, taking man's form, O purifier, thou art above the gunas three. Knowledge divine, not flesh. Thou whom the cosmos wears, a diamond at its heart. Let us look deep at in thine eyes. They are bright with the wisdom of God. They can wake us from Maya's spell. And it goes on like this. Beautifully done. Buddhananji points out so amazingly there. He says, if you look at this picture of Sri Ramakrishna, into the eyes of Sri Ramakrishna, they're seeing and yet unseeing. They do not see the world, they see God. For him, they do not see the world because the world doesn't exist. Those eyes are the ones which are really seeing. We don't see. He says, look into the mystery of these unseeing, all-seeing eyes. And there is the knowledge of God. It will transmit. Ma Sharada said, sometimes people would say it's very difficult to meditate. She would say, all right, if you cannot meditate, she would point to this picture of Sri Ramakrishna. She said, look at this picture, just stare at it. That's as good as meditation. With open eyes, just look at it. This is the first known picture of an incarnation of God. All others we know only by description or imagination. So, into those eyes, the eyes which are looking out into infinity. Sri Ramakrishna himself worshipped this picture. He said, a time will come when this picture will be worshipped in ghare ghare puja have, in households across the world. This picture will be worshipped one day. Sri Ramakrishna would, and in the last days of Swami Vivekananda's life, it's very interesting that somebody told him that story. That Sri Ramakrishna used to, I don't know who said that, but somebody said to Swami Vivekananda, do you know this, what Sri Ramakrishna used to say about the sages immersed in samadhi, and the child comes, and then one of the sages comes down here, and he is you. And Vivekananda said, now I know. He said, I know now. And this was just some time before he passed. And in the last day, as I was just saying, that same song, he writes in a very touching letter to Josephine MacLeod, that all this pull of work is passing. Whatever had to be done has been done. And now I float my boat in the waters of God. That he says, I am once again that young man, that young boy who would sit at the feet of the old man of Dakshineshwar. He was not all that old. Sri Ramakrishna was 50 when he passed. The old man of Dakshineshwar would sit at his feet and listen with wonder to his, to his words. I'm once again that boy. And he ends the letter with, I come, O Lord, I come. Dot, dot, dot. So on the last day, he meditated for a long time and closed the doors. He was sick, but people saw he was feeling quite well that particular day. And nobody expected that he would pass so quickly. Somebody asked him, why go? And Vivekananda said, under the shadow of a great banyan tree, other trees cannot grow. I must go. So this Brahmananda and others who were coming up, who would take charge of the organization. But basically, I think his mission was accomplished, what the mother had wanted. And then he sang that song, Matvam Hitara, for a long time. People outside heard that singing going on, which Ramakrishna had taught him so many years ago, the day he accepted Kali. And then, of course, in the evening during Arati, he sat for meditation and he passed in meditation. This was the 4th of July, 1902. Sri Ramakrishna, one day in ecstasy, he went and close to Naren, almost sitting on his lap and saying that I see that this and that are not different. This is I and that is I too. The mother has become all. What do you say? And Buddhanji ends with this amazing insight. He says, we start with Ramakrishna's Naren, and then we see Naren's Ramakrishna in the great movement across the world and the Khandana Bhavabantan and so on and so forth. But now we end with that Ramakrishna is Naren and Naren is Ramakrishna. In his own words, I see that the two are one. I am this and I am that also. Narendranath will give him the last word. Sri Ramakrishna would have wanted him to have the last word. Narendranath says, Vivekananda says that I am firmly convinced that there is this great power in this universe which thinks of itself as female. He means Kali. Then he further says that I am convinced that Kali worked up the body of Ramakrishna for her own ends. And he writes, I am firmly convinced of that. Again he says, Kali worship is a fad of mine, a special fad of mine. It is a secret that shall die with me. He says that about Sri Ramakrishna, he handed me over. He had me over to Kali. He handed me over to Kali. It's a secret that shall die with me. I think the secret is this, that Kali and Vivekananda and Sharada and Ramakrishna, they are that same power, the same divine mother. In our understanding of avatars, it's always our Shakti avatar. Nirguna Brahman, there's no avatar. There's only one limitless reality. But avatar is always of Saguna Brahman or of Shakti. Shakti avatar. It's Kali's avatar. All incarnations come from one Shakti. We pray to that extraordinary mystery, the divine mystery, whose blessings we are feeling, that we are called here, that we stand in this presence well over 130 years after this was founded. It's a continuing blessing. And we are under the blessing and protection of that great light, which is an eternal light, but which made a special appearance more than 150 years ago as Ramakrishna, as Sharada, as Vivekananda. We pray for blessing, for protection, for enlightenment. We are not asking for pumpkins. We are asking for devotion, for dispassion, for discernment, viveka, and enlightenment and fulfillment. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.